If you're saying making new life is unethical, then your natural conclusion would be to not do that. And so when you're choosing not to do that, what you're basically advocating for is for others not to do it, which leads to the extinction of the human race. So you're giving up. You're giving up because there is suffering in life. Antinatalist interview Amanda. I'm curious. This channel makes interviews with people who do like Fent.
Amanda, where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
I am originally from Manhasset, Long Island. My parents and I moved from Manhasset, Long Island when I was 3 years old, and so I've primarily grown up in Chicago.
And tell me about your childhood.
Like most childhoods, you know, it had its sadnesses and disappointments, but on whole, I had a very nice childhood, a very decent childhood. My mother was a Jungian psychoanalyst and a professor, and my father was a professional advertiser and an oil painter. So I spent a really significant portion of my childhood running around ad agencies and making lots and lots and lots of art.
I'm pretty sure antinatalist is someone who doesn't believe that the human race should repopulate.
So tell me what antinatalism is.
Sure. So antinatalism, put as simply as I possibly can, is the belief that it is unethical to create new life.
That's what it is, yeah. So that's, yeah.
Now, there are many different types of antinatalism. There's many different types of antinatalists. There's a lot of different...
I think that there are people, and you can instantly tell that they are going to have an opinion that negatively is about the world, that stems from their own self-hatred.
Different motivations for antinatalism. There's a lot of, you know, different reasons why people might find themselves to be some form of antinatalist. Antinatalism can apply to a great many things, and there's huge disagreements among antinatalists about all of those things. So most commonly, it is the belief that it's unethical to create new human lives, but this can also apply to animal lives as well, and it can also apply to you know, creatures that might become sentient at some point, like the emergence of sentient machines. There's a whole form of antinatalism called anti-AI natalism. So if those machines were essentially to gain sentience, that we would see that as unethical, and those were our lives worth preventing.
And is your side of it particularly focused on humans?
I'm what is called a sentiocentric antinatalist, or a biocentric or a reverse biocentric antinatalist.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Natalist, which means that I'm for the non-existence of anything that has the
You are a problem. Like, what you're describing is a sickness.
possibility of feeling.
You know how many people would die to live? Like, literally, people die to live.
Really?
Yeah.
They're like, the idea that, like, creating human life is unethical is crazy to me, because in order to even have that opinion, you had to have been created. And then what you're saying is your own existence, and every existence in itself is unethical. Because if you're saying that making the human life is unethical, then you're saying that being alive, which is the product of the unethical thing, is unethical itself, right?
Yes.
So
Because if you're saying, like, for example, an iPhone is made with unethical things and the product itself is unethical, right? Like, because for it to be the result of something unethical, then you have to not want the product, right?
So I didn't interrupt you, but yeah, so my antinatalism would apply to not just humans, but to animals, to sentient machines, to anything that
dogs,
has
cats, squirrels, frogs.
Sentient machines.
the whole kit and caboodle.
They should all go.
They should all go, yeah.
And the trees? Plants?
Well, the trees are not, you know, they're alive, but they're not sentient. So if there's a possibility, you know, there is sort of
You cut off a limb of a tree, it doesn't
make it scream. So my concern is anything that has the possibility of saying ouch. Now, there is also this sort of specter of evolution, you know, out.
So is her argument that because there is suffering in life, that bringing someone into the world is unethical?
There, if Jeff Goldblum was right in Jurassic Park, you know, the philosopher didn't say that famous line, you know, life finds a way. If life finds a way and it manages to become sentient, you know, if the trees all of a sudden start winking at us and start screaming, then they would become my concern. But right now...
Why is it that you want animals that feel to be abolished?
Because I believe that one of the greatest products of life is the
Suffering.
production of suffering.
There you go. It sucks being this on the money always. I know what she's gonna say. Suffering is bad, and in order to be alive, you will experience at some point suffering. Something else will die, and that thing's death will bring you pain. And you should not have to feel that. It's crazy. Suffering gives life meaning, and it juxtaposes and contrasts the beauty of life itself. The warmth, the light, the hope, the fun. And I'm crazy and it's crazy to say that all this is suffering. I think that is a projection.
It's all of this incredible amount of suffering.
We're watching Antinatalist Interview, Amanda.
That's basically one of the biggest things that life produces. Life is...
But on the other hand, there's also suffering sometimes motivates us to accomplish things.
That's absolutely true. So once we're alive, we need suffering, right? Like suffering builds character. We need to know when we're in pain. Suffering has all of this,
It is a survival instinct. What causes you to suffer, you will stay away from.
Have all of this value. But
it's like when you put your finger on the hot stove and then you take it off.
The fact of the matter is, before we exist, we certainly don't need it. We're certainly not in need of any of that suffering. Before we exist, there's nobody there. Just like they're not in need of all of that suffering that might have some utility to us while we're alive, they also are not in need of any of the good stuff either. There's all of all the positives, to have a good life. We're not before we exist, we're not in need of any of that. And so to create a new being is to put that potential sentient being at great risk. At risk of a poor quality of life. We do that without consent. Now, I know what you're going to say. It's impossible to get consent of a non-existent being, but that's part of the point. That's the nature of consent. If you can't get consent, then you don't take those.
So because when something is born, you don't have consent to making it, it shouldn't be born. That is one of the most that is a ridiculous argument. It really is. When you are conscious and when you are sentient, there is at no point that the majority of people are asking, why was I born? Unless they are literally in child slavery. The problem isn't them being born, it's that they're in child slavery. What she's describing, the problem and why someone would actually not consent to being born would never be to not experience life. It would be to not experience the unfortunate circumstance that they're in. And so if we reduce the bad circumstances that people can be in, like, child trafficking, abuse, etc., then this goes away. So her problem is, I think, it's misleading. She's saying that the problem is that these people are not able to give consent to being born. But the only problem and the only reason they would ever say, hey, I didn't consent to this, this is not the life, it's the bad shit in life. That's it.
Risks. You don't impose that harm.
Being conscious is not something that you can ever complain about. Or having senses, smelling, tasting, seeing, hearing.
So this was to happen, the planet Earth would be just plants and trees and insects?
Well, I mean, insect sentience is definitely... There's a philosopher by the name of Brian Tomasic who has done...
Insect sentience.
A lot of work into the idea of insect sentience. And, there's a lot of... I'm not entirely sure where I fall on that, but if they can be proven to experience... to have negative experiences, then that's something to be concerned about for sure.
Yeah, but how are they gonna, I don't understand, they're insects. They don't have consciousness. They can't not recreate or procreate. There's no consent in anything when you're an insect.
I mean, when you first told me that you were interested in doing an interview and I heard antinatalism, I assumed it was just humans, because I could see a strong argument for saying the planet would be better off without humans.
Yes. Well, I mean,
given all the damage we've done.
Considering all the damage we've done, yes. So when we met briefly,
we've done some great things too, of course, but
we have certainly.
It's starting to flip and starting to wonder if we're better off without us.
Well, I mean, I think that there's a truth that it would. I mean, the planet certainly would be better off without us. I am, when we met downstairs and you said those things to me, I was like, okay, so if he is an antinatalist, if Mark, you are an antinatalist, you would be an environmental antinatalist. So that would be sort of a form of conditional antinatalism, whereas maybe you wouldn't necessarily.
But isn't the planet's only purpose to us to serve? Like, isn't the land and the sea and everything about the world just meant to serve us? Like, literally. Like, the oxygen that is unique to Earth, because a lot of planets don't have oxygen, and the water and the food and the animals and the plants, like, all of that is meant to coalesce with our own natural plane of existence. So it's literally for us. If the Earth was not inhabited by humans and there is no extraterrestrial life, then I see no reason why we should just ending our own species voluntarily, giving up our lineage because the Earth would be better. The Earth would be better for who?
Extinction of human lives, but definitely maybe a lessening. I don't know.
I haven't really thought it out. I'm not one of those, but
yeah.
But I'm not an antinatalist. But I just see how much pollution certain countries are putting out now. You know, the United States is trying their best to help things, but we have other countries that are making it worse, and that affects everyone else.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, so, I mean, certainly, I think that any amount that we can alleviate the harm that humans do is excellent. I mean, I think so long as life exists on the planet, we should try to make it as good as possible. You know, antinatalism is not saying, let's just give up and let everything go to absolute hell. Like, I'm not...
Well, it is giving up, right? Because if you're saying recreating and making new life is unethical, then your natural conclusion would be to not do that. And so when you're choosing not to do that, what you're basically advocating for is for others not to do it, which leads to the extinction of the human race. So you're giving up. You're giving up because there is suffering in life. It's baked into the cake. And you're saying that because suffering is bad and that babies and the newborn can't consent to suffering, that therefore we should just extinct. We should just be erased. Which is stupid. It's I like this. It's emotional, it's selfish, it's anti-nature, also impractical.
Happy at all about climate change or any of these things that are going to cause massive amounts of suffering. They're not going to cause extinction. They're going to cause just massive amounts of suffering and probably, civilization collapse and all of that. I would prefer that human beings decide collectively in a more benevolent fashion to end themselves in a much gentler way, and also to take responsibility.
She seems like one of these people who would be like pro-assisted suicide
for the rest of life on this planet.
People who are, if they're depressed, they can just walk into a pod and gas themselves.
Now, for us, that means just not procreating. You know, there's no need for any violence. There's no need for anything nasty. You know, can we just collectively decide we're not going to produce more of ourselves?
What you got to do is you got to let the weak extinct themselves, so in the future we won't have those people. The strong never give up. I agree 100%. Yeah. I mean, and look, they say that using ad hominems are a logical fallacy. Like if you insult someone based on the way that they look, or something that they can't control, or something that is just mean, that it delegitimizes your argument. But I do think that there is something to, if somebody is outwardly like unhealthy and is looking malnourished, who hasn't taken care of themselves, they are not experiencing life to the fullest. They have given up on themselves, and by extension are now giving up on the human race. And I think that tells you everything you need to know. This person has no hope because she herself is hopeless. She is unhealthy, she is unhappy, she views the human condition as inherently negative, and so there you go. That's all you need to know. Ignore this person. This is just someone who is, it just sounds like a depressed person.
And, what kind of interventionalism then needs to happen for the rest of sentient life, that gets a little bit more complicated. I did want to say just real quickly, though, everything that I'm saying as far as animals, sentient machines, again, I need to make it perfectly clear, not all antinatalists deal with that spectrum of things at all. I mean, that just happens to be part of my concern. But like I said, a lot of antinatalists are concerned with anthropocentric antinatalism that applies to only humans. So it gets pretty complicated as far as where the focus is. And
How long have you followed this line of thought?
Yeah, so I started in 2010. So when I was a kid, I was really obsessed with monsters. Still am. Love monsters and horror and all that. You
know how privileged you have to be to have this discussion? Like, do you know how many people are going to hear what you have to say, and then they're going to be like in infinitely worse conditions than you, and think that their life is still a gift? I can tell this person's like a complete like liberal atheist.
And I noticed that, there were little whispers of sort of something about life something about procreation that a lot of these stories were like, seemed to be trying to tell me. Like, there seemed to be something very obvious about, there seemed to be a very obvious critique of procreation in the story of Frankenstein. Like, maybe Dr. Frankenstein should not have created that monster. Like, maybe...
Yeah, you realize a lot of antinatalist people were depressed as fuck. The human condition is not as bad as these people say. Having children isn't evil. It's not.
Playing Prometheus wasn't such a great idea. You know, maybe he just created this being with, you know, unnecessarily, you know, only to suffer and die for no good reason. And also I was obsessed with vampires. And vampires, you know, by biting each other, they create more vampires. And that seemed to me to be sort of a procreative act. And it seemed to be making sort of a critique against procreation. So those ideas were in my head, you know, for a long time, but nothing in our culture encourages this kind of thinking. So I figured, well, this is just one of the things that's wrong with me, and I'll just...
Well, it is. Like, yeah, our culture doesn't promote, like, its own degradation in terms of, like, let's go extinct. We do things that are masochistic as a culture, like all this transgender stuff is pretty bad. The normalization of depression, anxiety, etc. Like, that's pretty bad, but I don't think that we are like, oh, hey, like, as a human race, let's go extinct. This does make you different, and it does make you 100% in the wrong.
Just kind of ignore it, and that'll be fine.
It's one of the few times that being an outcast from society actually straight up delegitimizes you. A lot of people are outcasts and they're geniuses. This actually makes you just completely wrong.
But you know, I've been making YouTube videos for about 15 years. So
nice.
Probably in, I don't know, 2008, 2009 or so, you know, I was making videos of a completely different kind. I was a toy reviewer. I don't know if you know what Dragon Ball is, but I was obsessed with the toys.
I like Dragon Ball.
So I was making Dragon Ball toy reviews and dressing up as the characters and screaming into the camera, and I had a great time. And then I started discovering, you know, videos by people like Inmendum and Derived Energy and Metamorph, who were talking about antinatalism, as well as animal rights and topics like the right to die, and particularly antinatalism. It was like being hit by lightning. You know, it was...
This is the kind of overthinking that just ruins your life. Overthinking about things is fine. Overthinking about why are we even born can make you very philosophical, and you can end up on some really great points. You can end up at a great place, or you could end up like this. You can never be a nihilist. You can never be pessimistic long term. You never can look at life as something that is a curse or something that is going to bring you down forever. Like, these people are so sick. Antinatalism is a sick extension of something like nihilism, and it will lead you down a dark path where you view life as a chore. Life and living in itself will be an inconvenience to you. The moment you wake up and regain full consciousness will be like getting struck by lightning. It'll bring you great pain if this is how you view it. It also is 100%, it has side effects where if you view the world this negatively, you will have incredibly high levels of something called cortisol in your brain, which is a stress hormone. And that stress hormone, if you're a man specifically, it literally decreases your own testosterone. So even if you hate the world and everybody in it and you're depressed, if you want to go to the gym and work out, good luck actually getting strong if you have low test because of this. So yes, 100%. And all of these other things, the way you eat and the diet that you have, like what you're literally putting in your body, this stuff has effects on your brain. Chemically, it has effects on your brain. Like, same thing with supplements, right? Because food has vitamins and minerals, and these things play a big role in your cognitive health. The way that it does that, and what that has an effect on your life, it is cyclical. I like the world. I will eat well. I feel good. I like the world. It's a circle. And the opposite can be true. I hate the world. I eat like shit. I hate myself. I hate the world. I hate the world. I eat like shit. I hate myself. I hate the world. I love myself. I eat great. I work out. I love myself. You can have a positive feedback loop that makes life worth living. And in order to do that, you need to view the world positively. You need to view the world as a gift. And if you don't, you are honestly killing yourself slowly, or if you view it neutrally, then I can understand that. And it's allowed to be hard. You can have hard times. They say hard times make strong men, or hard times make, strong men. That's the quote. I think everyone's heard that quote. But 100%, you need to view things long-term in a positive sense, or else you will destroy your fucking life. Did you know that some clothes are endocrine disruptors? Yes. The problem is that a lot of that stuff is so widely available, and people don't know it, and it's not regulated, and it's very hard to escape. The same thing with a lot of body products like soaps and shampoos. A lot of this stuff can seep through your skin, and once it's in your body, it's It's bad for you. A lot of shampoos, conditioners, they have like phthalates and plastics and shit that get into your bloodstream. It's bad, but, you know, some of this stuff, it's easier to avoid than others, but, you know. Anyway.
It was just sort of the culmination of everything that I'd been thinking and wanting to find in the world, you know, since I was such a little kid. And so as an artist,
just
as
where
a
cotton,
person,
yes, cotton is king.
Again, it was like being struck by lightning. It just inspired me to such an incredibly...
I literally told you this. Didn't I literally say that struck by lightning? I swear to God I did not pre-watch this.
Huge degree that I've basically never stopped, and I've been producing various forms of art and activism around the subject for almost 14 years now.
And I take it you don't have children?
No. No.
You've been in love before?
Yes, certainly. Yeah.
I mean, when you fall in love with somebody and it progresses.
Chat, I don't see a wedding ring.
Well, you want to have sex, right? You don't. So I don't think that we really have a. I think that the impetus to procreate is really culturally built. What we want is to have.
That is not true at all. We have the opposite. We have more people saying it's bad to have kids now, and the birth rate is lower. If you're gonna say that right now, the birth rate's booming, and if you're not having kids, there's a lot of pressure on you. Do you guys know what dinks are? DINKS? Because dinks are on the rise. Birth is lower, and she's gonna sit here and say that there's this cultural pressure to make kids when it's literally the opposite. Dinks, dual income, no kids. This is a fad. This is a big thing right now, where you'll have these like Disneyland 30-year-old millennial couples are both in jobs and making money who just decided that they don't want to have kids. If you think that the birth rate, that you're experiencing pressure to increase it, you must not know about this, and you certainly must not know about the actual data.
Have sex. We don't have an instinct to have children. We have a
Wrong. 100% wrong. How do you not have an instinct to have kids? That has to be a genetic defect. If you have no sex drive, the sex drive and the reason that you have it is in order to, not just because of the pleasure. The pleasure is a byproduct of the actual desire to recreate. The pleasure feels good, and that's why you can enjoy sex in a way that isn't, you know, like just pussy vagina to have a kid. You can get head, it feels good, right? But overall, the reason that you can even come is because you're releasing seed to ferment something to have a kid.
Cultural sort of mandate and a lot of pressure put on us. You know, it's something that...
So you're saying somehow artificially we should...
I don't have the instincts to have kids personally. That's okay. I'm saying that a lot of people, most people at some point throughout their life, you know, if you're in your 20s or maybe early 30s, then yeah, maybe you don't want to have a kid just yet, but past 35, you're going to experience it. That's when the female baby fever kicks in and men are ready to, you know, hopefully have had a career set up for themselves and then actually lay something down and start a family. Like, yeah, that's normal.
Protect from
And we have those
conception.
Tools. We have those. I mean, a lot of those tools are being taken away from us. You know, if I get raped tomorrow, I in this state I should be fine. But in a lot of places in America, I don't have the right to have an abortion.
Right.
I'm trying to understand. I thought you would be pro-life in like a weird way. I know she's an antinatalist, but what I was trying to because her problem is the suffering, right? But she's just, you know, taking the life. I thought she cared about life, and so you can't make more of it, but care about the life that exists now. But anyway.
But certainly, you know, human beings have known how to sever that tie between sex and procreation for a long, long time. So
you're gonna have a hard time getting everybody to get on board with this.
Absolutely. There's no question about it. There's no question about it at all. What I believe is that it's the right thing to advocate for. And I think that there is going to be...
For what purpose, though? For the planet or for just to end suffering? To
end suffering. I think that living things are in harm's way. And we as living things, we desperately need life to be good, right? Like,
to end suffering, you must end life. That is her argument.
We create people because we have all these notions that they're going to have happy lives, that they're going to do all of these things. And, you know, those are often quite false notions about the reality of those lives that we create. And I think that, look, there's all...
No, this is wrong. I think if you're living in America, you're going to have a good life, a better life than most other countries.
These competing, there will be a future of humanity, right? And there's all these competing philosophies and ideas about what that future will look like. Like the long-termists want to go on forever and create as many people as possible, and let's get off the planet and spread our misery anywhere we possibly can. There's the transhumanists who think that we're gonna, like, you know, genetically and alter human beings so that we experience gradients of bliss that have, you know, hitherto unknown, and we're gonna become robots, and it's gonna be just fantastic. And and I don't see much hope in any of that. I don't see much real movement towards that. I think.
Yeah, so you're hopeless, and this is what this all comes down to. What's the most replayed part? I'm getting the gist here.
You know, there's very few feminists in antinatalism at this point. There's some feminist philosophers that are antinatalists, like Patricia McCormack. But other feminist philosophers that have commented on it, like Christine Overall, she believes that antinatalism is, you know, bad for women, whereas, you know, somebody like Patricia McCormack would totally disagree. So I think there's a great deal.
Bunch of bums, bro. Name dropping literal nobodies.
Needs to be further investigated.
It's interesting because.
What the fuck is this? What the fuck? Why did they do this?
I think there's a great
mid-sentence. Why?
Academically, socially, that needs to be further investigated.
It's interesting because your philosophy.
She's still in the room.
Almost.
Why did they? Why?
Is in alignment with the Doomers that I've interviewed.
Oh, I mean, in some ways. I mean, the funny thing about the Doomers is that, why aren't they telling people not to have kids? If they believe that all of this hell is about to,
you guys should get together.
Well, there is definitely some Doomers within the antinatalist spectrum, and I think those that I know and have spoken to often wonder exactly what I just said.
Aren't you guys all doomers though? Like, you're separating yourselves from them, but like reality is you're very similar.
Like, come on, guys.
You're just like a chopped hoe.
Like, if you believe that all this is going to happen to humanity, like, why are we laying eggs in a broken nest, or in a nest that's about to explode?
What the fuck is he doing with the camera?
I mean, how can...
I'm so confused.
You know, what real hope are we deriving?
What on earth is the point of this shot?
From continuing that, you know, if that's what you believe the future.
Is this just going to go on for like the remainder of the conversation?
Yeah. What do you wish we all understood better that we don't? What do you think we're not getting?
That it's wrong to create need for no need. So before we exist, we have no needs. When we exist, we are inundated with needs, and most of those needs are just simply not met.
Are these like a size 10x?
During our lifetime, I mean, some of us are luckier than others to meet those needs. There's plenty of other people who are desperately in need for those needs to be filled. We live in a world where, you know, you can't gain without taking. So in order to satisfy your own need, you're sort of taking away somebody else's need satisfaction.
Fuck are we talking about, bro?
And that's unfortunately a bit.
So basically, by giving to other people, you are taking from yourself, and the less people there is to give to, the more ethical it is.
Big piece of this thing that we're caught up in.
Yeah, this is one of the worst interviews I've seen in like a long ass time, bro. This shit's crazy stupid. That is crazy. Antinatalists, bro. People who think that you should just not have kids because it's evil. What do we got here? Honestly, I think her point of view stems from a lot of compassion. She's so against suffering that she wants to prevent it completely outright. That's insane. My mother's a narcissist. Okay, this is... Anyone who starts a sentence with the word narcissist, I just don't trust you. It's a bad word. I don't like people who use it. I was adopted into a horrible family and I wish I was never born. It is a compassionate philosophy. This is crazy. All these people are just miserable. Okay, these people are just, like, actually deranged. I can't look at this. This is just so fucked. Yeah, that was a... like good video for content, but what a crazy person, bro. That is insane to me.